the fruit that comes from what you have built is the answer that you have been praying for. And okay, let me break this down. So for a lot of you, you are praying for, man, I wish I could, pay for my kids to go to summer camp. I wish I could pay to put my kids in private school. I wish I could be able to say yes to soccer and this and ballet and all of these different things. And because of income, you can't do that. Or every month it's like, oh man, it's so tight. Like, I just wish, we could be able to do that. Now, if you have a team, if you have built up a team and you have multiplied yourself, the very thing that you are praying for, which is impact, which is income, which is my life circumstances, the very thing that you are praying for is on the other side of building a team.
Welcome to the Kingdom Minded Mompreneur, where we, Becky
and Monique, your new biz besties, both busy moms just like you.
We're here to talk all things network marketing, mom life, and how to truly live out your calling. We'll be dropping 2 episodes each week to help you, the busy mompreneur, know the exact strategies to build both your business and your home. You'll hear each week from one of the top network marketers on their best tips for what's led to their success and what's working now.
We know that you're here because you are called to something more. You have a desire to succeed in both your business and at home, and we are going to teach you how. If you love what you hear here on the podcast and want to be one of our success stories, join us inside our community, the Kingdom Minded Mompreneur, where we provide a daily social media action plan, additional resources, kingdom coaching, and more. Click the show notes for the link to join. So let's get into the episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Kingdom Minded Mompreneur podcast. Hey, Becky.
Hello, friend.
We're excited to chat with you guys today because we are going to share with you your secret weapon as a female entrepreneur.
Ooh, I think their ears just perked up. I don't know about you, but if I heard someone say, I'm going to give away the secret, I'd be like, all right, give me the goods. I'm ready for it.
Yes, I know. So, one of the things that I love about our opportunity with this podcast is we are here to encourage you. We're here to cheer you on. We're here to support you in growing your business. But something that we recognize is that as a female entrepreneur, you are unique. You are in a unique position. You are building a business, but you are also, most of you are also moms and wives. And there are so many unique roles that we carry. Becky, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I think we all get really inspired by the industry as a whole because there is just so much opportunity based on what we've seen, within our company, what others have accomplished, but also based on just as a whole, right? Like I could just, if I was wanted to, I could spout off tons of different names of people that really, truly inspire me. In fact, someone recently, I was listening to Brooke Thomas, her podcast, and she talked about how she was so proud of her team because she's in network marketing and how they just hit 100,000 people on her team. And I was like, wow, right? Like one person. But within that, I'm sure she has had to be very disciplined and intentional around how she has built because she is a wife and a mom and owns other businesses, right? So yeah, I think it's very multifaceted. And I think you have to learn to be very vigilant and intentional and stay the course, right? And not get distracted because there's so much noise on social media. So many people are building differently or have the next shiny way to do something. And yeah, so I think us talking a little bit about that today is what people really need to hear.
Yes. And to encourage you that you can do this because the days where it feels overwhelming. I know this week I had one of those weeks where I'm homeschooling two of our children and I felt like that kind of got the back seat. And so there are those times where when you're balancing or managing all of these things, sometimes certain things take priority in different seasons, and then sometimes it's the opposite. And so the secret weapon that you have as a female entrepreneur is that you were created to multiply.
Yes.
You were created to multiply.
I feel
So
like I'm like, yes and amen.
yes, what this looks like is you take things, okay, by nature, you take things and you turn them into something so much greater. I was listening to a sermon by Tony Evans, and he was giving an example of how women were created to multiply. And he was talking about how, if you give a woman a husband, she creates a family. She creates this beautiful family. If you give a woman a house, she turns it into a beautiful home, and she puts her touch on things and creates, this beautiful atmosphere. If you give a woman some groceries, she turns it into, a wonderful Thanksgiving meal. And so I think sometimes maybe you underestimate the power that you have as a female entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's just funny as you're saying that, it makes me think about, if you were to go into any man's like home or apartment, like a single man, for the most part, right? Like it's going to be very bare, like very scarce, just what they need, like maybe like a bed, a couch, kind of like just a lamp, there's not going to be like a warm, inviting feeling when you enter the room. It's just going to be like, okay, someone lives here who like they just come and go, or like groceries, for example, it's like I know a lot of men who, if you were to give them a bunch of groceries, they would be like, okay, like even my dad, there have been multiple times when I'm like, hey, we can, do, if my mom's gone or something, I'm like, hey, I'll make this or whatever. He's like, no, I'm just going to have a sandwich. Like, it's
That
like,
is literally, as you were
just
saying
want to
that,
mess with like, do it. It's like, just give me like what I need to meet, this desire of hunger for the moment. I don't need to like slave in the kitchen and, all the things.
yeah, so that's so funny you said that, because I was literally thinking when I first started dating Matt, he had his own house. He had, and exactly that. It was like bare, and every night for dinner, he would have peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or he would buy the rotisserie at Kroger and just like eat off of that rotisserie. And so it's like, of course, when you get married, then your wife starts cooking and
Right.
she multiplies. She
Yeah.
multiplies it.
And it's not because we're saying like women have to do that, but it's like, I don't know about you guys, but there's like a desire there, right? Like I think that's why it's even in scripture to like keep her home. And, I've heard the phrase so many times, messy house, messy mind. And I feel that way, right? Like it's like, men are just kind of like, whatever, I mean, I'm sure there are men out there who are very like type A, detail oriented, but a lot of people just are like, whatever, I don't need it to be pristine or to have things a certain way. And I think there's just a lot of talents and gifts that women have that they think is just like, oh, that's just part of like, part of who we are or whatever. And it is, but it's such a beautiful part.
And it's a gift. Like we are given that gift. I mean, even if you think about the biology of women giving birth, like women are
Mm,
literally created biologically to multiply. They're literally created to bring life. Ooh, I'm getting chills. Just, we didn't talk about this before, but bringing life into the earth, like how powerful that is.
it
And so
is.
when it comes to business, some of you might be thinking like, oh, I'm nothing special. I'm not a leader. I'm not, I'm just over here trying to make a couple $100s a month to, do this one thing. But what we want to challenge you with is you were created to multiply. You were created to bring forth life. And when you do that in your business, it opens up the door to so many things.
Yeah. Well, and if you think too, what the impact that one person can have, and especially one woman. I mean, I know there are powerhouse men out there, in the industry, and I'm not like trying to, push them aside, but just in general, right? Like our audience is obviously the mompreneur, right? For the most part. And so speaking to her, it's like the impact so many women, I think, and myself included, at one point in time feel kind of like they get lost in motherhood, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or maybe it's just like same thing, different day. Like maybe you're a teacher and you're going to school or, teaching other people's kids. And then you got to come home and cook dinner and take them to sports and do this. And it can kind of feel this like mundane. And I feel like that's one of the really cool things about the industry and your business, even if it is just I shouldn't say just, right? Even if it is a side hustle or something that you're just passively doing because maybe you just don't have what you really truly desire to put into it. Or maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you're just like drowning in diapers and you're trying to figure out, how can I fit this in? And people are like, oh, you're just a stay-at-home mom. You should have all this time. But really, that's not how it works, right? You're so busy. Excuse me. You're so busy and the time you do have isn't intentional time because you're with your kids.
Yeah. And I also think of, when you multiply, when you create a team, when you build something, the fruit that comes from what you have built is the answer that you have been praying for. And okay, let me break this down. So for a lot of you, you are praying for, man, I wish I could pay for my kids to go to summer camp. I wish I could pay to put my kids in private school. I wish I could be able to say yes to soccer and this and ballet and all of these different things. And because of income, you can't do that. Or every month, it's like, oh man, it's so tight. Like, I just wish, we could be able to do that. Now, if you have a team, if you have built up a team and you have multiplied yourself, the very thing that you are praying for, which is impact, which is income, which is my life circumstances, the very thing that you are praying for is on the other side of building a team.
Yeah. Oh man. And I even think about my story, where when I look at my very first entrance, right? Like into this industry. And I was like, I will not recruit, I was like, nope, don't want anything to do with it. And I had someone approach me and I thought, oh, there's other people like me out there that have a desire to make some extra income. And, you know, if you look, fast forward a couple of years, I think one of my favorite memories was at conference. I took all my leaders that attended. It wasn't all of my leaders, but I took all of them out to dinner. We ate at a Mexican restaurant and I paid for the whole thing. And I remember being like, "Ooh, that was an expensive bill," but I was so proud to have that many people. Like, and that was just a sliver, of my team. I had grown to like 1,700 people. And it's just inspiring to think the actions of one person and the impact, right? And the income, all of those things, the experiences, the things that you're going to experience are on that other side of leadership. And I just want to, say that my absolute favorite part about the industry was developing leaders. And when I started to become very intentional about finding people who saw the same vision that I saw and pouring into them, that is when everything changed for me. I mean, it really is, not just monetary value, but I mean, it was like we had created a movement. I mean, people were, hopping into the boat because, fish were hopping into the boat before the pandemic. Like it was just exciting. It was something that almost couldn't be stopped
Yeah.
because it was like all the hard work for like 4 years, leading up to that moment, because I started in 2014 and in 2018, it was like things just started to slowly pick up. And then 2019, it was like explosion, the fire
Yeah.
hose turned on. And
Yeah.
I say that because it's just so powerful to reflect, that you feel like, what do I have to offer? I'm
Yeah.
just one person. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. This is just my side hustle. But
So how
really,
did that
there's so
change your
much power.
circumstance?
Yeah.
How did that change your circumstance? If you think
Oh
about
man.
starting in 2014 to 2019, like what was different in your life?
Oh wow. A lot. Yeah, well, in 2014, we were living in one home. We were able to afford to find another house that was actually very close to my parents. We, I mean, there was a lot of extra. We got out of debt, and when I started my business, and this story can be saved for another time, but when I started my business, I was actually living in my parents' upstairs, right? Separated at the time, not knowing yet that my marriage was really it was a long, hard road that I had already walked and I would continue to walk for a while. Lots of, trauma, mental illness played a huge role in it. And I just, at that time, I felt like everything that I had envisioned for my life had just been shattered because, right? Like I was literally in the process of graduating from Lipscomb University with my master's, and I signed up for Pampered Chef and I thought, what are you doing? This is so ridiculous. I mean, I'm like, you are a very educated woman and you're over here going to try and make some extra money, whatever. But I was desperate. I mean, I was like, okay, I had met my upline. She was a single mom. And I thought, man, if she can do it, then maybe I can too. And it just opened my eyes to what was possible, and it was such a blessing during that season. And then in 2018, by that point, my confidence was up, I had hope, and I felt like, I mean, I hate to say this, but ultimately, if I ever needed to start over on my own, I knew that I could. I felt
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
wasn't, I wasn't trapped, and it gave me freedom. It gave me hope. It gave me security, to be honest. And it gave me something to pour my energy into because I just loved helping other women.
Yeah. And that is all because you built a team and because you multiplied yourself. Like who you were before versus who you were then
Yeah. Yeah. I started out
was all
desperate, thinking
because,
about my own interest, my own paycheck. And then, yeah, huge shift in how I operated and
yeah.
where I focused for sure.
Yeah. So I think of the whole concept we were just talking about giving life and how when you give life to something, how it comes back, like something fruitful comes back from that. And so I was typing in because I was looking up the lyrics. What came to mind was the song Mary Did You Know? Of course, everybody's heard that song, right? We love the Pentatonics. I don't know if your family listens to the
Yes, I do too.
Pentatonics.
Yes,
Like
yes, yes.
their a cappella sounds so good. Okay, so Mary, did you know there's a line in the song where it says, "This child that you delivered will soon deliver you." And I
Oh,
just
I
think
just got
how
chills.
incredible. Yeah, like I know I was looking it up while you were talking. I'm like, I know this, it came to my mind, but I was like, what are the exact words? This child that you delivered will soon deliver you. And so for so many people, it's like you're praying and you're desperate and you're like, man, we need extra income, or man, I'm in a struggling situation that I need to get out of, or I need this or this or this, or you see like your kids about to graduate and you're like, I'd love to be able to pay for their college or whatever your circumstance is. And you're sitting there passively thinking, oh, there's no way that I can do this, or there's nothing that I can do. But recruiting, multiplying yourself, team building
Mm.
is the answer. This child that you delivered will soon deliver you. Okay, I know before somebody comes at me, I know this is not the same thing as giving birth to Jesus. But my point is the very thing that there's going to be labor involved, there's going to be pain involved, there's going to be strife involved with team building and growing and recruiting people and people coming off your team and then quitting and doing all this kind of stuff, right? It's so worth it because on the other side of it is the life that you are looking for.
Mm. Ooh, girl, that was a word. I'm like, oh man, because yes, as you were just, talking, there were so many times, in my journey where I'd be like, oh, so frustrated because somebody, didn't do what they said they were going to do, or the very person I was like, this is the one. When they promote, we're going to promote, or blah, blah, blah. And then something would happen and it wasn't on my timeline, right? Like it was on God's timeline, but not even, aside from that, it would just be so like, man, is this going to be worth it? And yes, it is worth it. And the impact that it opens up to you, I think is just, it's not anything that I can even really describe, because I mean, well, yeah, it was super cool to have a month where I made like $40,000, and to, be able to just like swiftly in a month pay off like a whole credit card that had like 10 grand or whatever on it. I mean, yeah, that kind of stuff is really cool and incredible to be able to do, but it took a long time to get there. And I think too, that's why, like, even if as you were talking about childbirth, right? Like, you have to have the baby in your stomach for like 9 to 10 months almost, and it's like you carry the baby with you everywhere. And again, we're not comparing building a business to having a baby or the birth of Christ, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not something that it's like, oh, you're pregnant, tomorrow you have a baby, right? You
But it's
are,
like the dream. You're pregnant with
yes,
the dream.
you're just constantly, like thinking and dreaming and hoping, and you're praying. You're like, I hope they're healthy, and I hope, whatever, and you wonder what they're going to look like and how it's going to feel and be, and you think about their name, and you're dreaming about the other side, but you're also recognizing that that is part of the process. And if you do not, if that process is interrupted, it can be detrimental, right? Like,
Well, that's
literally,
good.
children, if babies, if they're born prematurely, are either, sometimes they don't make it, which is terrible, or they have to stay in the NICU, and it's like a whole thing. It might even cause delays in their growth. And so even with the business, right? Like, part of that process is refining you. It's building you and your character and developing the skills that you need to be a strong, powerful leader. And so for those of you, if you're like, I am not where I want to be, we get it, right? Like, we've all been there. Everyone has been there. And ultimately, the very thing that you might feel like you're like, is this for me? It might not be a matter of, is it for you? It just might be a matter of, you are not equipped yet to be the version that you desire, the version of you that has all of these things, that is debt free, that is stress free, that can financially afford all of those things for their children, that can start the nonprofit or give back or whatever it is. And it's just so interesting that when you're in it, when you're in that the trials and the process, and I'm even speaking to myself right now, I'm like, okay, Becky, you needed this. When you're in that in between season, or that building or growing season, it can be so painful. Like, if you've ever been pregnant, it's very uncomfortable, right? And you're like, oh, I gotta pee all of a sudden, like they kick you or something. Or and of course, childbirth, is very painful. But on the other side of it, it's the most beautiful blessing.
Yes. Oh, so good. That's so good. So we recognize that this is a need for a lot of people. Is you might be asking, okay, I see the need for me to grow. I see what's on the other side of building a team, but how? Like Becky and Monique, how do I do it? And so we have created something for you that literally walks you step by step through how to create your dream team and how to create a team where you are finding the people who want to build with you, where you're using social media to attract the right kind of people to speak to your niche. You are clear on your own vision. That's a big piece of it. Is like, do you even know where you're headed? Because if you don't know where you're headed, you're not going to attract other people to come with you on this journey. Some of you might be thinking, well, why have I not recruited? Well, do you even know where you're headed? Because if people haven't seen you clearly show up and talk about where you're going with your company or with your business, then why would they join you? Right.
Right. Or if they're committed, like maybe you've jumped around to different companies, right? So it's like, are you committed to what you're building?
Yes. So we have put together a course called Multiply 2.0, and it was something we have previously provided in a coaching capacity. And now, because of you and because of the people who we want to serve, We went through and we re-recorded the modules and we put it together, and it is now in a self-paced course all about how to build. It's called Multiply 2.0, and it teaches you exactly that. How do you multiply? How do you create this team? And you guys, it is only $497. That is huge.
Yeah, crazy. We used to charge $3,000.
Yes.
$3,000. Did you hear that right? That's crazy. It's a steal.
Yes. And part of that is because we want to serve more people, and we want to serve you. And we recognize that there are a lot of people in network marketing that are like, okay, I want to have the strategy, but I don't have, $3,000 to drop on coaching or a course or anything like that. And so we wanted to make it accessible to you. So we will drop that in the show notes, but it is something that we would highly recommend that if you're serious about wanting to build, if you do not find a strategy, you're going to be in the same place. You're going to be in the same exact place as you were before. And if you have told yourself like, oh, this is my year, I really want to do this. Well, what are you doing exactly? Okay, I'm going to use this as an example. I didn't tell Becky I was going to say this, but Becky got me this journal for my birthday. That was so sweet. And she gave it to me for my birthday. And part of the journal is like you write out your 10 dreams. And then one of them, you focus on one of them. Okay. And so my one that I was going to focus on is health. And I've always been healthy. I'm pretty healthy. I like to, fuel my body well and all of that. But it was not the number one priority. And I got very, very specific about these are the specific goals that I have. This is specifically what I want this specific muscle to look like. Like I was very clear on it. Okay. And so I started to the way that the journal works is you fill out every single day. You basically write the same thing over and over again. So after about a week of doing this, I hadn't made any changes to my nutrition or my workouts. I hadn't made any changes. And finally, I was like, Monique, if you're going to accomplish this very specific thing that you wrote down, you need to go hire help. I literally told myself that. And I invested, I'm not going to say how much, but I invested a decent amount this week, and it was painful. I was like, ouch, this is a lot.
Yeah.
But I knew, I was like, I'm going to write this in this journal every day for a year unless I take action and do something differally.
Well, I think
instead of telling myself.
That's what's so powerful about it, is because you keep it in front of yourself enough that you're like, all right, it's in the front of your mind every single day. Yeah, that's powerful.
Yes. So unless you take action, unless you actually do something, you hire somebody to help you, you have a course you're going through, you have accountability, unless you have something, I hate to say it, but you're most likely going to be in that same place. And if you know that you want more with your network marketing business, you're going to have to invest in some capacity to make that happen. Thanks so much for listening to the Kingdom Minded Mompreneur. If you loved what you heard today, could you stop and give us a 5-star rating and review? It helps our visibility on podcasting platforms so others like you can hear more of this message.
Also, if this episode encouraged you, we would love for you to pass it along to your own biz bestie and anyone else who could benefit. Lastly, don't forget that if you want to hang out with us just a little bit more, join us inside the Kingdom Minded Mompreneur community. Click the link in the show notes. Bye for now.